report. It is September 3rd. Can we have our attendance taken?
Heather Campbell.
Here.
Noel Johnson.
Present.
Derek Lazuka, absent. Randall Martin.
Yeah, here right now.
Donald Moranti.
Here.
Charles Millar, absent. Margaret Morris.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from August 6th, and the draft August 25 minutes?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. I will pass it over to Mike for our administrative director's report.
Good morning. Thank you very much. We need to this is for the finance committee? Or are we going to do that later?
Well, according to the agenda, that's number 4, but I don't mind switching it up if you want to do it first.
We do the finance committee first?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so take a motion, a second to pause the general meeting to go into the finance committee.
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. It's the little packet.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, did anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes from July 2nd? Can I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes? Oh,
Second.
you can't second.
Oh, that's right. You, Charles and Heather. I thought.
No, it's
No,
three of us.
Okay, yeah, second.
Yes, we're both in favor. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we flip over to the balance sheet. Which is nominally, it's through August 26th, but nothing has changed between August 26th and the end of August, so it's through August, basically. You can see that total cash is about 770. You can also see that per our discussion in prior meeting, 525,000 of that cash has been moved into 3 different CDs, one at 6 months, one at 12 months, and one at 18 months. And basically the rest of it, so that leaves us 203,000 in regular cash, and we've got another 42,000 in escrow money, which is obviously not ours. And if you flip to the other side, liabilities, the accounts payable, you'll be looking at those bills today for approval. The rest of that section is just the liability side of the escrow funds. Per our discussions a couple meetings ago, we're now paying out the pilots as they come in. So you may from time to time see a due to on the liabilities, but at this point, we don't have any. Everything that we brought in-house has already been paid out to the 3 municipalities. So does anybody have any questions on those? Okay. In terms of the P&L, you can see pilot income to date we brought in is 357,000. The bulk of that is from Hudson Terrace, but we've also received the payment from KNR, from PBF, and from SEC 7. I can see that we've also earned a fair amount more interest year to date than we did in the past few years before. I had a discussion with the bank and they agreed to increase the interest rate on the bank accounts. And so that's made a pretty substantial difference, which is great. Admin expenses, CEDC, obviously, the audit is the audit, legal fees is Chris Shaw. And then you can see the pilot distributions here, which correspond to the pilot revenue in the revenue section. And that's basically that. Any questions on that? Okay, then if you look to the 3rd page, it's the list of bills for approval to be paid. It's the July and the August, they're all Rodenhouse Shaw. And all of them, except the one that say general services, all of those are coming out of the escrow funds. Any questions on those? Can we vote to approve payment of those?
Yep.
Motion,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, and it appears we have a proposed budget attached. This is my first time seeing it, too, if I did not put this together.
Basically, what we've done is what we've done in the past. We have, indicated, that, we would hope to have, $60,000 in application fees, administrative annual service fees. And $50,000 of that 60 would be new projects. Again, you don't know, what the, revenue will be. And what we've done in the past is basically, match that out so that it comes to, basically a modest profit. You don't know what administrative fees the agency is going to get because you don't know what projects will be presented. And it would be foolish in our view to put in $300,000 and show a $250,000 profit.
Why is it 107 for 26, while 360 for 23,000? Why is it up on 23?
We do, and, we did anticipate having, at least one project.
Okay.
We didn't want them to think that it was a complete wash, but, I think when the authority budget looks at it, if we overstate what we think are, the administrative IDA fees will be, and we don't achieve it, it looks like we weren't successful, but we have no idea what's coming into the door and what might close. 2 years ago, we had $75 million worth of deals close. Last year, we had nothing.
Right.
This year we have one or two.
Yeah.
So, it's, it seems to me that we, it's kind of a pay-as-you-go model. And, so, again, we do look at, and it's almost the same as it relates to, the professional service contracts. There is a kicker in the contract that you have with CEDC, that provides us with, $12,000 a year base to manage, the administrative side of the process. And then 10% of the IDA fee you receive on an individual project for the work associated with that project itself, up to 10,000. So we may be, having later in the year, as we do our budget, look at, adjusting that 10% cap. Or that 10% of the fee up to $10,000. We're finding that, it's spending a lot more time on these complex deals, but again, we wouldn't be looking for a lot more, but, we think the $10,000 cap on these $40 million projects is, so we have to revisit that with you, but that's at the end of the year.
Mike? There's an annual admin fee.
Yes, I believe it's $1,000. I mean, it's a modest fee that each of the, projects pay. I don't know that it goes back to Hudson Terrace. I don't know if it was in place at that point.
I don't think that does, but I know we spent some time trying to get the pilot payments and the pilot schedule. So maybe now we add that on too,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure I've ever seen one from anyone and I don't know when to expect it from whom.
Yeah.
What?
I don't.
Yeah, we'll have to look. Okay. I'll take a note of that.
So any questions or comments on the budget? Do you have any comments or questions at all?
I think, no.
Yeah, but on
Any
14.
comments or questions from the public?
Yeah, I have a question on 14B. Where we have 150,000, that was based like on anticipating 5 projects for next year.
No, again, we put only $50,000 in for a project, and if you do a $10 million project, you get a $100,000 fee. So
Right.
we were just saying it was a random $5 million, so, if you go back up to the $107,000 in services, it was, $7,000 in application fees and the administrative fee, and we have to look at this, whether this idea has that, I know the county does. But we were proposing $100,000, which meant, at 1% that you did a $10 million deal next year.
That's it. But then why in 2027, there's only 67,000?
Again,
It's
Who
just,
knows?
Right, that's what you could.
you just gotta give,
Yeah.
yeah.
You gotta put something there, and, you know,
Okay.
if you were really thinking, oh, we're gonna do a $25 million deal every year, and you put in 250, and then the budget office comes back and looks at,
So it's just a placeholder.
yeah.
Okay,
It's,
okay.
it's kind of. We've discussed, I think this goes way back to our very early days, sitting down in the chamber office for our meeting,
Mhm.
where we decided that, you know, if we are, it's better to show that you did better than budget than to show that,
Understood.
it's asleep at the wheel.
Also, it's too far out to predict, you don't know what better happen.
And
You're 2026, you have a better picture of.
yeah, and it also gives a sense that, you know, you're not going to necessarily, you don't want to drive the decision-making here or the perception of the decision-making here to meet your budget. You want to decide whether you're gonna do a project on an individual project basis. Great, thank you.
So do we have a motion to adjourn the finance? Oh, we're.
Then
No problem. Public comment?
Yeah, I'm just curious, on the minutes from July 2nd, it talks about, well, there's the HVA pilot we're talking about there. And you're talking about taking off the tax roll and putting them on roll 8, I'm just,
that's the tax exempt rate, that's what.
okay, so that's what that is. just
Roll 8.
exempt,
Yes,
Really is,
section 8, yeah.
it's jargon,
exempt.
it's,
You
sorry,
always gotta clear up the jargon.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the public?
No, I'm good.
You're not the only public.
Welcome comments.
Okay, if there are no other public comments, can I have a motion and a second to?
The
Make
budget.
motion.
No,
Yeah,
you have to do the budget first.
Oh, we have to vote on the budget?
Yeah,
I'm sorry about that.
that's okay.
Motion to approve? Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to exit the finance meeting?
Make that motion.
Non second,
All in favor?
Aye.
we're the Bobbsey twins.
And
All
I
right.
turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion and a second to restart. The industrial development full meeting.
Motion?
So, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the 2026 budget, are we voting on that as a? full
Yes.
meeting?
Mhm.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the 2026 budget?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor? Or do we,
Aye.
we need a roll call for this.
Do it right now.
All right.
So,
Can't hurt, right?
you certainly can. Heather Campbell.
Aye.
Kamal Johnson.
Aye.
Joe Lucas is absent. Randall Martin.
Aye.
Dominic Moran.
Aye.
Charles Millar is absent. Margaret Morris.
Aye.
All
All in
right,
favor.
I have a motion and a second to pay the bills.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Hold on. You gotta catch up with you. Okay. Heather Campbell.
Aye.
Kamal Johnson.
Aye.
Joe Lucas absent. Randall Martin.
Aye.
Dominic Moranti.
Aye.
Charles Millar is absent. Margaret Morris.
Aye.
All in favor.
All right, I will pass it over to Mike Tucker for administrative director's report.
Finally, thank you,
Again.
Mayor. Thank you. My dentist, I thought would be quick putting a new cap on, but, took longer than I had hoped this morning. Well, I'd like to ask, your permission to, adjust the agenda to provide, to allow for the, Casetta Hudson Mansion Partners Project, in the former Elks Club on 601 Union to, make their presentation before we, have the discussion on the Penrose project. I think that, and we're fortunate today, to have, Sam Shendo from California with us, representing the ownership, of the project and, the Casetta Group. And also, Jerry Gallo, the Director of Architecture, from RAL Companies and Affiliates, in New York City. Chris Brown, just made the copy of the presentation they sent me last night, which I missed, and, they are going to present it on the screen, for those who are listening. We also have, Spencer Levine with us, from representing the company from New York. And is Mr. DeForest with you as well, or?
No,
No,
No.
okay, well, Mr. DeForest. And welcome, I guess Sam, and Jerry will open it up and, give you the opportunity to give us a, 15 to 17-minute presentation.
Just wanted to clear, I'm here from RAL, we're the owner's rep for the project.
Okay.
I am the project manager for the construction here. Spencer is our principal of RAL, and he was supposed to be here to make this presentation, but he's a little under the weather. So he's gonna
You
make
didn't
the best
want
of
me
it.
there.
We were very grateful to him yesterday when he said he wasn't gonna come and get us all, cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Guys,
welcome, and,
Thank you. I can share my screen if you guys would like, and I'd
Perfect.
welcome, since Jerry and Sam are there, and certainly since Sam is there, Sam, feel free to jump in whenever, or if you want to give an intro.
Before we jump
I-
in, I just left a little about Casetta. So we are a boutique card. We're
come up here and we can hear you.
Okay, and it's nice to see you. Nice to meet you all. So came in from California last night. Casetta is a boutique hospitality company. We are Southern California based. We have properties in hotels in Los Angeles, San Diego, Big Bear Lake, which we recently completed a 50-room renovation on a former lodge, Viking mid-century lodge, and we are converting a church in Los Angeles to a 25-room boutique hotel. And then we have recently completed a renovation of a 50-room abandoned lodge in Taos, New Mexico. So we're very excited to be presenting here. We found this property a couple of years ago, fell in love with it. It is a former mansion from 1858, Elks Lodge addition, and an annex property. And we were looking to convert it into a 41 boutique hotel with a public restaurant, event space, lounge, bar, pool, and hoping to include the community in that endeavor.
All right. Thank you all for your time today. I'm Spencer Levine, the president of RAL. As Jerry mentioned, we are working with the Casetta Group to deliver this project as the owner's rep and local bench and support for the Casetta team. We are based here in Manhattan, but very much involved in projects, have been for many years in the upstate region. We're a 45-year-old family-owned and operated full-service real estate firm. So we do everything from development, we do project management for others, as well as our own portfolio projects around the country and into the Caribbean. Very focused on creating great experiences for guests and residents and occupants. Very focused on the what's special about any of these projects that we get involved in. And I'm going to walk you through a presentation that, as Mike mentioned, we sent over last night. This is meant to be a preliminary conversation about the project. We've submitted the application to your team. This provides a bit more depth to the discussion, but you've got a very committed, passionate team in front of you. Sam and the team at Casetta, as you can tell from the portfolio that they've developed, they truly believe in creating these unique spaces out of adaptive reuse and creating these great boutique hotels across the country. They do bring a very unique perspective to the table here, coming from the West Coast and drawing their very loyal followers to the East Coast, and we're excited to be a part of that. As I mentioned, we really serve as the support and the bench and the local resources to get this done. We're a very passionate group as well. I'll walk you through, hopefully everyone can see the screen. I'm going to gloss over some of the more number related stuff because I do feel like it's very important for everyone to really read the application and read the package that we've provided here with a bit more time. But what I want to bring to the table today is really all of the thought and all of the passion and all of the commitment that underpins this project. And the commitments on what we're going to bring to the property, what we hope to bring to the city of Hudson and really bring to the region as a whole. As I said, we're very familiar with it. My in-laws actually live a decent amount of the year down in Catskill, so very familiar with Hudson, spend a decent amount of time there. And walk you through this package here. Sam did a good job of kind of giving the big grand overview of the project, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with the property. But we were enamored with it when we first got involved and were introduced to the Caseta team. It's a truly beautiful opportunity to do something with a property that has, it's so interesting because the way that it has evolved, it started as the mansion up front, the 1865 mansion, and then these pieces were added over time. And I think what we are trying to do here is create that next chapter. What is that next addition? What is that next invention of this property, and how does it get utilized going forward? Instead of sitting in its currently kind of somewhat, well, truly underused state. So there's the rehabilitation portion of the project, which includes the three pieces that Sam had mentioned, which are the original mansion, the Elks Lodge, and the annex. And that in those three structures, which no one would understand that they are three structures unless you're walking through it, that would include 31 guest rooms. It would include a lot of the public areas of the hotel operation, the commercial kitchen, the lounge bar, dining rooms. And then we have the new construction on the back, the additional structure, which has another 10 guest rooms, a very different product. What makes the property very unique is this kind of variety of room type, variety of experience, and really catering to a vast, a larger variety of users and guests that will come to the property and come to the city. In addition, the new structure in the back, those would have dedicated outdoor space. Some of the rooms in the repurposed Elks Lodge piece also have some dedicated outdoor space, which we think is important. It's beautiful up in Hudson. Even in the winter months, it is pretty amazing to experience. And there will be a small spa, gym, and event kitchen and exterior spaces that complement the overall redevelopment. This, as I said, this is a presentation of some of the information that we've talked about with Mike and talked about with everyone, but there's obviously a story that connects each slide of this, and the story is much longer than the 17 minutes. So it's a little bit jumpy, but what we wanted to convey is some of these impacts. So some of the things that we've been thinking about and some of the things that Sam can speak to as it relates to operations as well, because they're doing this in other parts of the country. And I think that's very important for everyone to understand. The team that sits in front of you, and I'm using that term loosely because I'd love to be sitting there with you, but the team that sits in front of you between Caseta and RAL, we all have a long history of actually delivering on the concepts and programming that we have committed to. You could certainly look to our portfolio, things like Zero Irving and all, where we've committed to digital skills training and other projects. So this is not just lip service. This is really what's being enacted in other Caseta hotels. Or so an artist in residence program. Do you want to speak to this, Sam? That'd be awesome.
It's something we do in every single one of our hotels. Again, we are a so being a part of the community is critical for us. So the artist in residence program, this is something we actually started in-house with the Paseo project, which is a not-for-profit gallery that brings international and local Taos students into different galleries and into different public spaces with complimentary art shows for the public. So we actually built out a huge portion of our lodge in Taos that is dedicated to the Paseo project, coming in and showing these different local and international artists. On top of that, we created a whole room that is for our artists in residence. So we have, for that project in particular, 8 different artists throughout the year that come in, stay with us complimentary, create their works, and they show their works in the Paseo project gallery that we have on site.
Sam,
Yes,
one of the things that your location has a lot of history, local history.
correct.
My family attended many weddings, my own prom was there. So one of the things, and I don't know if there's any, plans for, if it's even still there, is the old bowling lanes.
We have seen that down below. We actually, that was one of the first things we saw when we were discovering the basement of the project. We tried to find a way to revitalize that and keep that intact and figure out some way that we could have it as part of the project, but I think Jerry can speak to this. It's pretty difficult to be able to revitalize what is currently there. But what's something that is important to us at Casetta that we always touch on is the story of our projects and our properties and find a way to incorporate every bit of history into.
Is there any, I mean, just because of the need, I mean, we have no bowling recreation, for developed youth, so is there any way to see if there's any funds out there, state to, regenerate that for recreation use for the community?
I don't think there's really any.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I-
when we stewardship of the project,
Mhm.
there was only a portion of one lane remaining. Everything else had been removed.
Okay.
How many
Yeah.
lanes were?
Oh, I didn't even know that there were four.
The
It
White
looked like there was maybe that.
Yeah, most of those had been removed prior to our involvement in the project. And one of the things that we can talk about is what we've done over the last several months, which is really a deep dive into what's existing in that building. And through a soft clean out process, there were several constraints that were unknown, asbestos, some structural issues, things like that, that we uncovered in looking. And ironically, there was a decent amount of asbestos in that room that was the bowling area previously. So some of those constraints did govern what could be saved and what's not. Obviously, though, to your point about events and local events and how that all happens, events are that kind of community event and community programming, as Sam mentioned, is critical to the operation of this hotel. So there are areas both internal and external that are dedicated to those kinds of uses. And while it won't be the prom, it certainly will, play a significant role in, we hope that it will play a significant role in community life going forward and being a draw for events like that.
To speak to the history, we have finished our part 2 with parks, and we will make it to the register. And when you walk through the front door, you'll very much recognize it as the mansion. We are restoring the vestibules, eating as much of the original millwork as we can. It'll very much still be the Gillette Mansion when you enter the hotel.
So in terms of the bowling alley, what's left? What's your plans for the lanes?
That becomes, yes, 5 of our guest rooms.
But I'm saying the lanes itself, like, I mean, it would be nice, maybe if it's possible, right?
They weren't actually real wood, which is like a laminate.
Right, but if you can cut it up and,
We did.
offset it off.
It's no longer there.
It was-
No.
What was left is gone because of that exploratory process. So yeah, those are gone, or the one is gone.
We're very interested in your community impact, but can we get on to the economic?
Absolutely. I know you're chomping at the bit to get there.
One question first.
Yeah, so the new construction, just facing the building from, Union Street.
Yep.
It's my understanding that the property runs back behind a neighboring, house.
Yes.
So some time ago, it's been going on for a while, there was discussion about a pool in that area.
We do,
And
yes.
so forth, so, where are you planning to build the 10 additional rooms and pool and so on, and how does that, because there's no schematic here.
So was it on at the planning board?
Sorry,
That was done at the planning board.
okay,
Yeah.
It's not within our scope, but you're,
so that has all been agreed to?
Yes.
and,
Yes, yeah,
I mean,
with extensive landscape.
we could
I know.
provide us with a schematic, but
Yeah, I'd like,
information.
yeah,
but-
just to see it, just to see it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I assume, so I have gone to historic preservation.
Yes, I think
Yes,
that's where
we actually
that's where
just got
the
it.
most delay was.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
We apologize for the long delay, but there is a process.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
happy to go
We,
through it.
we like process. Process makes projects more, the process makes projects more unique. It forces creative solutions. So we're all on board for process and we've been through it and we're here today to talk about the economic impact. So
Question? Randall?
Yeah, I'd really like to see the schematics because I was on the planning board when this was approved, but I don't recognize from your renderings. This, like this, which I don't really recognize it from, it wasn't submitted to the planning board, I don't recognize like its placement.
It's,
In the
yeah,
project.
yeah, that
Is
was,
it- is that
it's
the
right
back?
behind, that's
That's
the
the
back.
So that's
Yeah.
from almost the neighbor's property looking back,
At an angle, yes.
right?
No,
Yes.
it's
And then the pool would be behind that,
in
Yes,
front, yeah,
correct.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
okay, and then that's,
All
and
of-
also.
There's
Catering
acreage behind. The
Okay.
catering kitchen is within
within
that
that.
building, yeah.
all
Are
of
you-
the new construction happens behind the parking lot and behind our building, so it's not visible from the street and all that stuff. Yeah.
Was, well, to the question before. Are you gonna maintain the staircase? That's sort of the iconic thing when you walk
Oh,
in the
of
door.
course. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
one- One of the things we don't love.
Okay.
There's a shell.
As I was saying, yeah, the
And the
entry,
milk
the entry
as well.
vestibule and the vestibule on the second floor.
Yeah.
Nothing's being removed, everything's being
Yeah.
restored in its location.
Yeah.
There's many photos of that staircase.
I've
Yeah.
seen them, people be using some of them.
Eleanor will be proud.
Okay.
As a random fun fact, Eleanor actually was a part of the church as well in Los Angeles.
Really?
Yeah, we have friends of hers that knew her very well that would come up and stay in Hudson with her, who live across the street from us at the church. So some of her work will be in our project as well. Sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
you're
Moving
good.
right along.
So, yeah, no problem. So we can kind of, obviously the first introduction to this, high level economic impact, job creation, obviously these are permanent jobs. Right now, Caseta runs a very, they run a very efficient operation, but it's really focused on quality. So at least 20 new full-time equivalent jobs across that world. Obviously there's local spending. Some of these are obvious, but it's meant to, this project will draw the kind of quality local spending. It's not, and it's spending on behalf of operations, but it's also spending on behalf of the guests. Tourism dollars, we mentioned this before. This brand has a very loyal following on the West Coast and in the Southwest. And the idea that they seek out properties like this property that to repurpose and create these unique experiences across the tourism landscape it will draw visitors from the West Coast and beyond following the brand. There's the event elements of it, as we discussed, that will, draw corporate retreats and other local business events, want to be very community focused, but also draw from outside the community and bringing people into so they understand and they get to experience Hudson as well. The rest is significant investment in the property, in the historic preservation, the new construction. And also this is a group, the Caseta team is a group that's committed to, they are long-term holders of this property. They are committed to owning, operating, and delivering an experience over time. So they are here to stay. Tax revenue growth, obviously hotel operations, restaurant, bar sales, increased visitor traffic, all those things support the city's tax base, supporting municipal services and all that. There is a real year-round draw, as you guys know, to Hudson, and this will increase the bed base. It will increase the dining opportunities, wellness, all of those things that make Hudson really very special. And it goes well beyond the peak tourism season. There is there's a renewed draw. You see some of the success of some of the other Catskill properties and beyond of becoming a year-round experience. Wildflower Meadows is a great example, not in Hudson. It's a destination type resort, but the fact that it has become a true year-round destination and really drawing people throughout that year, not just that peak season. Attracting outside capital, that's pretty straightforward here, and workforce development. Cassetta's going to hire and train locally. There's all the aspects of running and operating a hotel that come into play here that I'm sure you guys have heard before, but they have the track record to show the commitment, and this is not the first.
And something that kind of touches on both community and economic impact. We do have an internship program that we already do in New Mexico, in Southern California, and we'll be doing in Northern California as well. That's good.
And how about how you be deploying that? That's of specific interest to me, how you're gonna interrelate and get local people trained and employed in your hotel.
We have we would work with the local community college.
Okay.
Usually we do summer internships. That's what works best for us and them. And we have a month program.
And then will
A
that
great
occur
program.
prior to where you staff up? So that, when, from day one, you'll have
It happens
have
every year.
local employees.
All local employees on the ground. Like our supporting staff obviously is in Southern California and we're a remote company, but all of the general manager that will all be local.
College has workforce investment over there, so that's a contact for you.
This is the property information. You guys know the property. We've kind of gone over it.
How long is the building basically empty?
How long has
Prior
the
to
build?
everything, I
10 years?
at
Longer than that.
Yeah,
Probably
Yeah.
25, 30.
been pretty
Uh,
rough shape.
Yeah, we did discover through this early kind of, oh, sorry.
We, many times, I think on 5, 6 years ago, you were.
Yeah, I know, I went there somewhere in 2017. Yeah.
And I think what's important to note here is what we found in this kind of soft exploration, soft clean out process is, there were a lot of underlying conditions that we were unaware of, that were hidden conditions, whether it be the asbestos, structural undermining. There was a tremendous amount of water infiltration, obviously, structural work that needs to be reinforced or replaced in roofing members due to water infiltration. There's a lot of things that we've discovered, having now really gotten into the property and started, figuring out how this gets executed, that were clearly not apparent and needed to be discovered in order to execute this properly. This kind of rehashes what we've talked about, but it talks about the preservation of the historic building and those spaces. Jerry mentioned, I'm very proud that we've been working through the Park Service process to get this on the historic registry. And we will be doing what is deemed appropriate as part of the construction process to be able to preserve that designation. So these are getting into some of the numbers now. The cost benefit analysis that was created for this application to, looking at the real benefits to, the local benefits, both local, regional, state, city, and regional. There's tremendous financial benefit to actually getting this done. There's tremendous financial risk to getting it done. And that's what we're here to talk about today. It is a very costly project. It is a very costly endeavor, but we truly do believe in the benefits and the success that will come out of it. Mike, I don't know if this is probably just better looked through or and digested,
I think we have a
or
question. I think we have a question.
I also have a question.
Yeah, so, Margaret Morris, I'm just looking at your ongoing payroll of 28 million. You're projecting, that cannot be an annual figure, that would be 1.4 million for your projected 20 FTEs ongoing. Where is that 28 million coming from?
That is generally it's an aggregate of the operating staff over the term of the 20-year pilot agreement.
So it's over
Yes.
20,
Yes,
Okay.
that's over the 20-year pilot agreement.
right, this is not an annual, but are the, some of the other figures, are they over the lifetime of the project? Is all of this over the lifetime of the project?
The
Yes, they
increase,
should be.
in property
Okay.
tax revenue is something that we would calculate. I haven't validated this yet, but the increase would be how much is being paid under the pilot versus what would have been paid if it remained empty at the current
Over the lifetime of,
20 years.
There is in the application,
okay.
it's attached, there's a table with.
Then there's
So all
the
of
temporary
this-
payroll, presumably is construction.
Yes,
Yep.
Temporary job, temporary, the sales tax revenue. I don't know that the sales tax revenue, we have to look at that. I don't know that it's related, to jobs as it is related to construction costs, but we can go back and look at that.
That may be
And-
more of, that might be just a verbiage thing, that might be more related to the kind of the multiplier
Yeah.
effect of having the construction jobs on site.
We have many of the consultants that are used in this process will figure out right down to the sales tax on the cup of coffee that the construction worker gets at the roach truck. But we're not always, sometimes that's a soft number, but it's good to have in here. I think if we go to the cost, when you look at the,
you had a question,
Yeah,
Peter?
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
when you look at the analysis that we do using the model that we've created, you'll see, a reallocation of these and we'll validate our numbers and we should have that, relatively soon.
And again, this is over the lifetime of the pilot.
The 20-year pilot.
Right.
Yes.
I'm just curious, so your other properties, were you also dependent on a pilot in order to build them? So is this the first one?
Yeah, yes, this is the first time that we've had a pilot. We've typically gone into opportunity zones, so we've gotten opportunity zone funding. However, this is the first pilot program that we've been a part of.
I think, and a part of that, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, is a large part of that is related to what we found and what the cost of renovating this building and adaptively reusing this building in this location in New York. And what we found as far as what needs to be done with structural stability and historic preservation and all of that that comes along with it. So there's a tremendous cost to getting that done and executing on this that we're bringing to the table here.
To say that we were shocked in the exploratory things would be an understatement, just at the
Yeah.
cost of to restore this the way in which we believe it should be restored.
And so, when you look at their cost benefit analysis, it's similar to the model that we use. Both in terms of what the benefits are to the community and then what the lost revenue is to the community by granting the differential between the taxes that would be generated versus the pilot. The loss of the sales tax and the loss of the mortgage recording tax. As you know, the city of Hudson receives about 13% of half of the sales tax is 8%, split 50-50 between the county and the state. On the half that the county gets, I believe they give you close to 13%. So the city loses 6% of the total sales tax savings. The rest is the county and the state. Obviously, the pilot exemption is 51% to the school district, 30% to the city, and approximately 21% to the county. And the mortgage recording tax, as I understand it, is the county gets 50% and they split it 50% with the municipality. So the city would lose 25% of the sales tax benefit.
Mortgage tax.
Mortgage tax exemption. And then Spencer, obviously, the
Yeah.
next page of the proposed pilot structure. And if you could just run through those notes on the right-hand side.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 20-year property tax savings plan, the 20-year pilot request is based on the fact that this is a long-term hold. It's a committed ownership group that is intent on hanging on to this property once it's put in all the effort and money to make it a reality. It allows us to make predictable payments while the hotel business gets established. You know, as you all probably know and have seen, hotels don't make money day one. You know, it takes time for a hotel to stabilize. It takes time for hospitality in general to stabilize. It takes time for any business to stabilize, but this, the hotel and hospitality world is very unpredictable. So this gives us the predictability in those payments. For the first 10 years of operation, we'd only pay property taxes based on the current unimproved value of the land, freezing the payments at that level. So it gives us, again, that predictability while the project, the property stabilizes, while the operations stabilize. And then the 10 years after, you'd pay taxes on the unimproved value plus 50% of the new assessed value. So we do recognize that there needs to be, you know, once the property is established and stabilized, there is a new baseline that would increase the tax payments and should be, you know, it's a recognition of we've stabilized, we're in a better position to pay, and we're still providing the community benefit, but that increase to increased payments will happen. Over the 20-year term, the plan would provide a total tax savings or abatement of about $4.7 million. So that's over 20 years. That $4.7 million is the savings. When you look at it on an annual basis, especially on that second 10-year tranche, it's a pretty, you know, it's a much lesser number and value. And even with the incentive, and this was what I was alluding to before, the project will still contribute $3.3 million in new property tax payments to Hudson over the 20 years on a property that would otherwise generate far less. So this is by getting an established hotel and food and beverage operation, and by helping to shore it up in its early stages, we're generating over the course of the term still significant monies to Hudson.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So
please.
this property is currently on the tax rolls, correct?
Yes, it's 3.9 million.
And you're currently paying taxes on the property, correct?
They are.
So the rationale for paying no taxes for 3 years?
No, I think they would continue to pay the tax.
Under our policy, during the construction period of our other IDA projects, it's something we'll get into in the next discussion. The policy is that from the date of the IDA closing, through the date of commercial operation, you pay as if the IDA was not involved, so you
I see,
continue to
okay,
pay.
so it remains static
Yeah.
quo. Okay.
But the pilot, they're still gonna be paying the property taxes based off the current.
Yeah. It's a payment in lieu of tax, because once you close on the deal, it becomes tax exempt.
Yeah. I
But the
understand.
formula for the, prior to commercial operation under our policy is, that you would pay as if you still owned it.
Oh, that's different than I thought. So you're saying that the abatement is gonna be.
And the improvement, once the
On the
improvement,
improvement.
once the improvement is completed. You don't start charging on the,
Once we close. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So
So-
can I ask just what, why the modification between the application and the presentation in terms of the pilot schedule? It looks like the estimated taxes without the IDA is almost double in
We
year
made-
twenty.
We made a mistake on the calculation.
Okay, in the application
Yeah,
for it?
it was complicated and we made a mistake.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanna make sure that I know which one I'm looking at. So
Okay.
this is the one we're looking at now. Okay. So.
Can you amend that?
Yep.
So it looks like
We did.
but it looks like the unimproved taxes numbers are all still the same. It looks like you used a 2%. So the total, even though it's on this one, looks like it'd be about 1.16 million.
And one of the things that I don't know that this model reflects is that our policy is to increase the tax rate at 2% at the same time we increase the assessed value at 2%. So, but that will come out in our model.
I believe, yeah, and that's a question, unfortunately,
we can
Josh
work
had a
through that.
conflict, but he can clarify that as the conversation proceeds. You know,
Great.
payment in lieu of sales tax. This is our next, obviously, in order to make this happen, there's a substantial investment in materials, that would be subject to, sales tax. So, you know, asking for the IDA for an exemption for paying the sales tax on our construction materials and furnishings. It's about $1.47 million. It's a pretty critical part of our project's financing, directly reducing our costs and helping make it more viable.
So to the extent that there may be takeaways on our side, you forgot to add the 5% bed tax as a benefit.
Okay,
I'll talk to Sarah about that.
Yeah. yeah, well, that's
No,
like Sarah, for
I
sure.
thought you left it there so there'd be some back and forth. Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to clarify for myself and the public, so they're still gonna pay the $49,000.
That's what they're proposing.
Right, that get, but for the first 10 years to pay the equivalent of what the current tax unapproved is.
Correct.
And then in year 10, or in year 11, you'd actually pay the taxes on the current.
No.
value,
Fifty-
on the
50%
value
of it.
then.
No.
50% of it, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 50%.
The original plus 50%.
Gotcha, yeah,
Yeah.
plus 50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as with the other two hotels that the agency has considered, the 620 Union, which expired, but the Pocketbook Factory, which is about to open. They too were deviations from our uniform pilot policy. And that requires not only an evaluation, all our projects are evaluated on a financial basis, but a public hearing. And,
Right.
And there also could be, having lodging tax into the city.
Right, that's what I.
Yeah.
That's Great.
So when working out the pilot schedule, I'm just wondering, did you consider escalating the 50% over the second 10 years to get closer to what the real market value will, or the real market cost will be once the pilot is gone? Because I'm always concerned when the pilot is so low for the entire extended period that your year 21 is gonna be ugly.
For us,
Yeah.
The cliff, we call it.
And I basically, like, if you can't escalate from that 50 up to something closer to 100%. I would be concerned that this is a 20-year project period and then you're out of business, potentially.
I am not the finance guy,
Neither.
and he's
Okay.
unfortunately not available today.
Okay.
But my understanding is we needed to keep it this way in order to make it financeable.
Yeah,
I think it's a concern because, while you're under a pilot, your assessment will go up. Because,
Yes.
Even though you're not subject to paying tax based on the assessed value, but in any assessment, it will continue to be assessed and on a routine basis. So you'll have an idea of how big that gap is becoming over time if the pilot isn't structured.
And, I would say since you seem to be observing Hudson pretty closely, and certainly if you've owned the property for at least 2 years and been looking at the market for longer than that, the assessments in Hudson are not going up by 2% a year. They're going up by a lot more than that.
Okay.
Can't predict the future though, so you never know, right?
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah, so,
Any other, if there's no other questions, go to the next agenda item. You're welcome to stay. Thank you,
I-
how we really are.
thank you so much for all of your time. We are, we are very available.
The first day of school, or was that yesterday?
that's what got upset.
It was
probably.
yesterday. I've got to, I had to, in addition to the cold, I had to stay local to deal with some stuff this afternoon, but thank you so much. Thank you for understanding.
Thank you.
Penrose update.
Yeah.
Was it?
I did not know that. Mr. Chairman, we're fortunate, to have,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do the business. Thank you, everyone.
Jonah Ricconati, and I don't see Dylan, but representing Penrose. As you know, this is the,
What are we looking at?
well, I'll walk you through these as we get to them, but these are related to Penrose. The J.L. Edwards School Project.
Yeah, yeah.
The first document that I have is a document that the developer provided us, which I've expanded on, known as their 581A calculator. The reason that has any relevance is that section 581 of the New York State Real Property Tax Law provides that assessments for residential real property where there are federal, state, and municipal incentives will be assessed based on the income approach. There are three methods of appraisal for, as you know, the reproduction costs, less depreciation, and comparable sales, and the income approach. And they shall be determined using the income approach as applied to the actual net operating income after deducting for reserves required by any federal, state, or municipal programs. One of the reasons that it's important that we determine an assessment in this IDA process, along with the assessor, in addition to a pilot schedule, is that under the state housing goal requirements of the low income housing tax credit program, one of the areas where points are given out is that the applicant must submit a draft commitment for a pilot for the project at a level greater than section 581A of the real property tax law. So if we were to create a pilot that resulted in a stream of payments on a net present value over the 30-year period greater than what the assessed value based on the income approach would generate, they wouldn't get any points. So the purpose here in establishing an assessed value is really the first step in being able to give them the information they need to complete their application, which, as we know, is due next Thursday. What is provided on this chart shows the city's equalization rate of 71%. The current tax rate, which I provided off the county's website, is 21.17 cents. Conforming with their pro forma, which they provided to the consultant. The rent inclusive of the utility allowance was $771,000. Less a vacancy rate of $38,000, 5%, gives them an effective gross revenue of $732,000. They have operating expenses, including the proposed real estate tax number, which is on the wrong line there, of $19,500, which is their first year proposed tax payment, of total operating expenses of $543,678, resulting in a net revenue of $188,822. They have proposed an 11.32% capitalization rate to complete the formula to calculate a fair market value, then to which we would apply the equalization rate. That rate is based on a 8.8% capitalization rate, which you see also calculated to the right of the 11.32. And that comes, Jonah, from a report that you provided based on the capitalization rate for low-income housing tax multifamily projects in the capital region. Is that correct?
Yeah, a CoStar market cap rate report for the neighboring
And,
submarkets.
That was the 8.8, which then you grossed up for tax efficiency. Could you explain that step in the calculation?
Yeah, that's just, we built this off of, 581A tool that we've used with assessors in other cities in New York State. Typically, we see them using a base cap rate, which is either a market cap rate or a cap rate provided by the local assessor, plus the effective local tax rate for a loaded cap rate used in this income approach.
I don't understand the math.
Well, the basic, well, let's establish the cap rate. Cap rate is from a guidebook that's put out by CoStar, which is a national real estate entity that provides this. We looked at some other models and that showed a 7% cap rate. And DJH, whose report should be ready by noontime today, indicated a 10.8 cap rate, which isn't inconsistent with what Penrose is asserting. So the way you create the fair market value under the income approach model is to take the net operating income and divide it by the capitalization rate.
I did that, I didn't get that number.
So if you take 188 822
Oh, I did get that number, okay. Never mind.
divided by 11.32%,
It's 1668.
like 668, yeah. I mean, with there's modest decimal point changes that probably resulted in it being
But
038 instead of
It's
536.
it's the fair market value multiplied by the city's
Equalization rate.
equalization factor, the 71%.
That I get, it. The loaded cap rate, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand where the 11.32 comes from by effective tax rate. I just don't understand.
Well, I think what it is if you, the way I thought of it is if it's the investor's rate is 8.8, that's the return they're looking for. They've grossed it up so that the investor's tax is covered. Because
So is that just some sort of like flat calculation in the app, in the,
yeah, I mean, was that in the book as well, or was that something that you did internally?
It was in the book, but I think the exact methodology is something we could look at closer, whether a loaded cap rate is more appropriate here or a market cap rate. I think most New York assessors probably, based off my research, use the loaded cap rate. But we could discuss that further.
And now we're gonna have a conversation with the assessor after this, to discuss this.
Okay.
One of the issues is that the higher the cap rate, the lower the value. And so, what we did here, was we looked at, okay, our consultant says it should be 10.8. We had another indicator of 7. Before you gross it up for tax effectiveness, it's 8.8. And so, what I've taken a look at is what would the average of those be? Just, we're not at a point of setting it because I really need to talk with the assessor about it, but to get a range of, what we would think would be a reasonable cap rate to create this assessment as required by the statute, so that then you can evaluate the various scenarios, including the one presented by Penrose, as to what the benefit would be under the pilot agreement. Normally, we would take the assessed value, increase it by 2% a year for the length of the pilot. We would take the tax rate, increase that by 2% a year, and then, divide by 1,000 and multiply it out, and then do a net present value. And, here, because of the fact that it's a project that's subject to a different method of evaluation, where it's required that it's be done under this 581A statute. we need to establish that at this point. It's a more relevant issue. Because they have to show the state how much benefit is the city willing to put into a project to get the tax credit that the state's providing.
And this gets them that number.
Well, this is the real, well, this is what it compares to, you know, how, the assessor has assessed, Crosswinds. But again, Crosswinds has been open for 15 years and the rents are high, the rents are about the same based on other. The rents from Crosswinds on the website shows that, they are, similar. They're a year off, they're 224 numbers, but it's a similar project. It's 71 units, this is 65. It's on 7 acres, we're on 5 acres. So Crosswinds is a comparable, but it doesn't appear Crosswinds, it looks like whatever pilot they might have had expired. And I did try to, contact Galvin to see, from what Heather and I looked at, it doesn't appear that there's any pilot benefit left there. But, you know, that project's been, you know, I have the date, it was open, but not in front of me. So, what I did for the remaining analysis is I used, $1,526,000, which is the average of these, 4 values. The next page we're gonna skip over for a minute, and that's they filled out our, analysis as to how many points they would get. Yeah, and if you go to the larger sheet, if you take their proposal, in column 2, we have the number of years. Their proposal provides that they not pay any taxes, during year 1 or 2 during construction. As I mentioned earlier, our policy is that you would pay what you would pay if, we didn't own the project.
But this is also not on the.
But it's not on the tax rolls now. So, you know, that's something that we have had a discussion about. And Chris, Shale, I'll ask her to weigh in a minute on why it's important to have, some tax payment in that time period.
Super. I don't think Crosswinds ever had a pilot.
Oh, sorry?
Crosswinds.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
had-
HCR tax, they had HCR tax, but I don't think they had.
Okay.
yeah, they never had a pilot.
And you got them, did they get the transfer? Or is it still under the?
Still working out.
That's
Still
what
working
we're
out. Yeah, it hasn't transferred based on the clerk's records.
Okay, that's right.
They may be managed,
I think, yeah.
but the title has.
Residents got a letter.
Yeah, I'll say they got an increase.
So Benrose, as I said earlier, proposed 19,500 escalating at 2%. Has a nominal total value over the 32 years, recognizing no payment in year 1 or 2 of 791,000, and a net present value of 573.
Can you explain the difference between those two numbers?
If you were to take that stream of income and give it to me today, you'd pay me 573. Because, you know, you're getting that money over time. And, just as the opposite would be, if I gave you 573 today and put it in the bank at 2% at the end of the time, you'd have 7. So again, this is for trying to create some guidelines for your consideration and input. It's not intended to be a proposal. But to show you, what we would be looking at. The third column is assessment at the 9.48% cap rate, which is the average of the 4 on the previous page of 156,000. 1,526,000. Again, I did not put in a value for year 1 or 2, so that we could compare it to Penrose's proposal. With the assessed value increasing to 2% a year and the tax rate increasing to 2% a year, the net present value of that stream of tax payment would be $1,594,000. So, you know, if you looked at that, basically they're asking for $1 million in tax savings over the 30-year pilot.
30 years.
And when you look at taking as an example, remember we did the K&R Providence Hall Skylar Court project, which is a section 8 project, meaning they get about $200 more a month in rent than a low income housing tax credit project. We did a 7% shelter rent. And the purpose of that is not to lock the community into a 2% fixed rate for 30 years. I did go back and look over the last 10 years. The low income housing tax credit rates increased approximately 3.5%. Over the last 5, they increased 7. We don't know what that will be. It could be 2% next year, it could be 10% next year. And what has been proposed is to take a fixed number and lock it in. And I know in the past that has not been something that any of you have liked to do for more than 10 years. You just don't know what's going to happen over a 30-year period. Similar to the idea that the treasurer brought up about the cliff. If you were to do that, 5% shelter rent, it would basically result in a present value of $1,047,000, which, when going to the state to show them how much the city has been willing to put into the project by reducing the taxes, it would be approximately $474,000.
In year 3,
No, total.
in total, okay.
Total. So there's one more page, I believe.
Yes.
What I tried to do here, is if you look at the one with all the lines, the HIDA analysis, again, you can see we basically, did the same analysis up to 4 lines in the bottom on the top box called assessed value, right? So, that's the same analysis, that we had. And if you look at the total pilot payments, you can see they basically match the chart that we just reviewed. What I did do, though, if you go to the second box, is I did some comparisons. Based on the Penrose proposal with 65 units, was trying to get to pilot payment per unit. It would be $8,824. If the payment included taxes in 2026 and 27, based on the current assessment of 6.5 million, which I'm not suggesting, when they paid 2.15 for the building, it would jump that to 13,000 per unit. If you go over and look at using gross shelter rent, or if you look at shelter rents, basically what they proposed is a 2.5% shelter rent. Because the present value of that stream over 30 years is 510 versus the 573. So it's all but comparable, except that it is locked in and it's fixed. On a 5% shelter rent, the present value on 65 units would be 15,000. On the 7%, which we had given to Providence Hall and Skylar Court, it would be almost 22,000. I then went back and looked to see, what would the values be based on what K&R is paying if they were at 5%, what Galvin is paying based on their schedule, what Crosswinds is paying based on the information Heather gave me, what Hudson Terrace is paying based on the information that is a 10% shelter rent project, and based on what they paid in 2024, based on the information on the Paris report, and then Hudson Gardens. And you can see this is very comparable to what the IDA, the 5% shelter rent model is very comparable to what you did with K&R. Galvin, because when you looked at their deal on a 20-year basis, it looked really good, but here I had to look at it on a 30-year basis. So they really, over time, will pay more, than, you know, the comparative gap, shrinks when you lengthen the time to 30 years, so. Crosswinds, over the next 30 years, again, because it's a mature project and they're already at a full value assessment, is $65,000 a unit. Hudson Terrace, 46,000, and Hudson Gardens, and I don't know, much about that project, it's at 192 to 198 Howard Boulevard Avenue.
Howard Avenue, not Boulevard.
Avenue. But consultant includes that in their report as a subsidized unit. I couldn't find that out, but. So again, this was to kind of give you a range, of where you think you are, and, if you flip it over. It's basically a summary of, those calculations, and the top chart is, by type of payment, and the bottom chart, I just took all of the units and summarized them. And, certainly this is a project that, we're working on the normal evaluation that we do. And one of the things that we're looking at is, all of the categories for the region, the city, and the county are above a 1-to-1 benefit ratio. The school district is below 1-to-1, but if you consider that they're gonna get $2 million for the building, and if this project doesn't go forward, it's probably gonna sit there, because this is the fourth group that's come in to look at this project. That they would also be higher than 1-to-1. So I only bring this up to work through give you a framework and some boundaries onto which to have a conversation. Any questions?
I think this for me is, it's different, it's a different format than what we've done the other evaluations. Like, to me, this pilot request, like, I can see it, and I can kind of analyze it, over the years. Can we get something like that? Is that possible to generate that for
Yeah,
over 30 years?
Yeah, I have that, but that's what these numbers summarize, so you didn't have to look at all the numbers.
Yeah, it was,
But I can get that for you.
yeah,
Isn't that basically what this is?
Yeah. It is, right? It's just, if you took this column here.
Yeah.
And moved it over here,
okay,
and, but we can show you on an annual basis what the gap is, that's what you're not seeing.
yeah. And the school district has, I think they were supposed to get some sort of release to be able to sell it at that price.
Well, they've approved,
Referendum.
yeah, they have to do a referendum, and that's, Jonah, in October.
Yeah, they're working on scheduling it for either late October or early November.
And I know this is not what they've asked, this is not a range that they've asked for, but, I know you, we need your input on this. Just to, based on what they've asked for versus what we've done in the past.
We're going to get our report from the consultant today sometime, correct?
Right,
Okay,
So I would like to see that and study that before having any comment.
we do have a meeting, I was confused yesterday at the public hearing, I don't, Lisa, did we send out the notice yet?
You said there
For
was
the
a
meeting
public-
next
you
week?
said there was a special meeting next
Yeah.
week.
10.
Well, we were going to do it on the 10th,
Yeah.
but, Chris,
I thought it was 12, no.
no, the 12th, the 11th is when their applications
That's
due.
Deborah.
Chris, you had a different date because of your schedule.
Well, I thought you had said at the prior meeting, you were thinking about the 8th, but I understand we need to get a board quorum, so that's more important. But yeah, I am not
Okay.
available the 10th for what it's worth. But I can provide a resolution in advance, but obviously for the board to discuss and understand the numbers, then we need to create a resolution that reflects those findings, so.
Are you available the next day in the morning,
Which day?
the 11th?
No, I'm away. I'm at a conference and I'm really stuck in meetings all day.
Well, let's check after the meeting whether the
But I mean, it's
8th, 9th.
Yeah,
I
right.
think a 10th or the 8th, 9th, or 10th is better for the board.
It's just, I mean, I think we need to understand what, I mean, we can fill it in on the fly, I guess, if I'm there, but I mean, we really need to have the financial analysis for the board to review, right? So they can discuss it and decide
I
whether they
see
come
the
down.
Well, you're not going to see this analysis in that report.
I know that.
So perhaps we should try to meet Monday or Tuesday. So that you have if there is further questions or opportunity.
I mean, I will make the observation that I think we moved to a shelter rent model for a reason. And I think it's a good reason, and I would like us to look at that as an alternative option versus the flat rate thing. We've been burned before by flat rate things, and the shelter rate protects them too because it's predictable, but.
And one of the things that this is based on is 2025 calculation of shelter rent in 2028. They cannot inflate that based on an anticipated increase in rents, but there will be an increase in rent, and it certainly would be somewhere between 2% and 5%. So, our numbers are deflated by not taking a guess at what the inflation on rent will be that would increase the amount of rent they would get, because we're starting using their year of 2025 rents in 2028.
And just a side note, I don't think the Hudson Garden Apartments is subsidized. Because I think initially late 70s, 80s, that was senior housing, but I think now the rents are too high for Section 8, so I don't think.
So at one time it may have been, but they're no longer.
Right.
So it's a good market comparison.
Yeah.
And again, from a market standpoint, those projects would be assessed at a different level than the income approach, or the statute wouldn't provide that subsidized projects are assessed at the valued at the income approach.
Right. I mean, the rents are still lower than some others, but again, it's high for no Section 8.
Chris, could you address the discussion we had about the mechanics of the closing, and Jonah has confirmed for me that, they obviously will close on the financing, the IDA involvement in the financing, till they do the all at once acquisition and financial closing. But during we did have the issue with 620, where we did have a 3-year window in which they had to complete their construction. We would have entertained an extension if they had requested, perhaps, or they lost the IDA benefit. How do you see that working here, and why is it important to have some tax paid during the interim?
Well, so there are a couple different concepts here. The first one is that even if you grant IDA, pilot, let's say at 0 for whatever the year is, or whatever the pilot is, the pilot can't kick in until the taxable status date after you close. So you're always going to have a gap where there's full tax, even if it was 0 today. Once the IDA transaction occurs, there's supposed to be an interim tax bill for that period from the closing, when the new owner takes ownership, to the first date on which the pilot can take effect. So that can be, it depends on the period, that you close, but obviously that can be a pretty extended period of time, number of months, before your pilot can kick in. Then once your pilot kicks in, the pilot is what the IDA approves. And obviously, the IDA has reviewed this as a deviation from policy. So the IDA's got to make a decision about what it wants to accept in terms of payments. If you do decide to structure, let's say, a lesser than, our policy says you're going to make them pay full taxes until completion of construction. And that puts the onus on the developer to complete the project that is the whole reason for your support in the first place. That's your policy. So if you, and within that policy, we also have a period of time during which the project has to be completed or they lose their IDA benefits. And so that, according to statute, is supposed to be a reasonable time. You have a policy that uses 36 months. You, the IDA, could make a decision about a particular deal if it was a very long construction period, to make it longer than that, for example. But that's the sort of standard rule. So that is the period, again, that's different from what's the pilot during that period. That's just when do they have to get it completed. If you go to, let's say something other than full taxes during that construction period, you need to think about whether or not, what's the trigger if for whatever reason they have a significant delay in completing their project, right? If they close on the IDA financing and then for whatever reason have a long delay in completion, do they get zero for a longer period of time, or is there a cap on that number of years? And the way that I think that we structured the preliminary review was based on assuming that there was let me look at the schedule here. We have, yeah, so we've always had a base period, right? That's the full tax period. And in this case, the base period, which would be after the pilot kicks in and then until whatever year one is. In this case, it is, that base period is what you're going to have to decide. This says the earlier of 12 months from completion or the completion deadline being, again, typically 36 months, that is going to be the zero. And so you're going to have to decide whether that, whether we want to adjust that a little bit. Whether, if you're going to allow a zero period, how long does that period go for? What's the maximum period that zero would go for?
And these are details that need to be fixed, but it's the overall concept of what your direction you want to go in, I think is more important
Right.
for
So,
us.
and I would refer the board to the specifics in the exhibit to the preliminary resolution for the proposed special project conditions that lay out that base period calculation and those completion deadlines. Okay.
So is it Penrose's position that they can complete this project in 2 years according to this schedule?
Well, it's hard to know because it's dependent on when the low income has. I'm glad you
Yeah.
didn't go back to California.
Well, let me just distinguish between the period from closing on the IDA financing versus the period from your approval of the financing. You can approve the financing and typically we give them a year to close. You could extend that year period in your original resolution if you so choose to give them a longer period of time to close if you think that that's important for the financing project. But when the pilot agreement is signed, that's when these other deadlines kick in. Does that make sense?
But so the first, in their proposal, the 38,500 represents what period of time? Is that construction time or close?
That is during, that, they have not proposed that. Their column is the one without it. That would be, 38,000 is the amount of tax that would be due at 71% of a $2.1 million, that's value. But it's currently assessed at 6.5 million. I think what would really happen here, Chris, Dylan, or, Jonah, when do you think, what's your best guess on when you would know, where you'd be ready to close?
So we'll hear from the state next February or March on whether we were awarded 9% low-income housing tax credits and other subsidy sources in this round. And if we're awarded, then we would be able to close in Q4 2026. Right. If we're not awarded in that round, we have to reapply in next year's round, which is, fall 2026. we wouldn't be able to close until 2027. So our
think
timeline
we're-
to move this project forward is really the HCR 9% RFP timeline.
Okay, we just received the report from BJH, so I had Chris print it, but not for you to review now, but to have it to go with you. Chris, I think the answer would be we'd figure out a way to go in and have the project reassessed for what it was sold for, not what, and that would take effect on July 1 of 2026, and that whole issue would go away.
Well, not exactly, but we can,
Well, if you close, it's certainly not worth 6.5 million, but we can work that out. I think that can be resolved. If they're not gonna close till September of 2026, and there's one more taxable status date to reduce that assessed value before then, I think you could figure that out. Alright, you're on mute, Chris.
okay,
But we don't need to resolve that today.
no. But what we do need to resolve for the board approval is what period of time do they have to close? In other words, to get from the approval of the financing to their closing with us on the pilot? And what period of time do they have to have if the board is going to approve some kind of interim reduced rate, which is against their policy, what period of time does that run for? Okay,
I used to say typically in the past, we haven't allocated a time like that. Like typically in the past, it would be.
Well, it had an assessed value on it, this is because the project's tax exempt now, or the property is tax exempt. So there's no.
Right, no value for the.
Well, I mean, presumably, when someone buys it, it would be assessed, but it would remain on the tax exempt roll till the next taxable status date. So,
no, the requirement is for an interim assessment. That's the law.
so, but that's why I think that certainly that's something that will happen, but if this isn't gonna happen till third or fourth quarter of next year, and we'll have to figure out, if you don't take title to the building, can the school district, and the school district still owns it, can it challenge its assessment?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so that's how we'll resolve that. I don't see that as an issue. The issue is whether you would waive a pilot payment during that time period, or whether you would do it based on the $2 million assessment. So, I showed.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts. I wouldn't waive it. But I also agree that it should be based on the $6 million assessment. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think a nominal payment, like all the other pilot payments required during the construction process, is appropriate.
Jonah, one of our members stepped out, but as I see her coming back in, I wanted to wait until she was back so that you've heard what we're talking about. Give us your pitch. I mean, obviously, you've asked for something very different.
Yeah, what we've asked for here, we're signing a 30-year regulatory agreement with HCR to restrict rents at these levels. Typically, we'd pursue.
Hold on a second.
Sorry, I just wanted to catch her up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Apologies, Jonah.
Go ahead, start over, please.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so here we will be signing a 30-year regulatory agreement with HCR to restrict rents at these levels. Typically, we'd pursue pilot assistance with the same term that's commensurate with the financing from HCR. This is what we've been doing in other jurisdictions around the state, and what we typically see as standard for a project with this financing structure. We think that now, like ahead of the 9% application, is really when we need to move to advance this. Definitely hear some of the concerns and comments based off of other projects that's been approved. And I think, over the following few days, we'll definitely take a closer look at our numbers here and think about this, you know, how it compares to some of the shelter rent approaches as well. I did some preliminary analysis on this call on a 5% of shelter rent approach. And if we're showing a 11.32 cap rate, those payments would actually be greater than the 581A assessment methodology. So I think that's something we need to look at a little closer here. But
my analysis is different, so let's compare that right after the call.
okay,
If we take 5% shelter rents based on 771 minus 10% for utilities. We started 693. And you know, we end up with $1,047,000 in the present value. And using the 9% cap, we would be at $1,594,000. So it's a $500,000 savings.
okay. So we'll review that more closely, Mike. But you know, again, I think this is a really important project. We really want to put together a strong foot to HCR and the 9% application next week, and really appreciate the IDA and the IDA's consideration of this project and ability to work with us on an expedited timeline to try to push things forward here.
And as I mentioned, what they're proposing on a fixed basis is a 2.5% shelter rent. Yeah.
Equivalent to, yeah.
But it's locked in. It's not 2% floating. It's not 2.5% of rents as they actually increase. It's 2.5% locked in. Because they're locking the rents into a 2% escalator.
So this schedule here with the 5% shelter rate has a 2% escalation.
2% escalation in the tax rate and 2% escalation in the assessed value.
Well, no, I need total rents.
Oh, total,
Right,
sorry, total rents.
That's the
Yeah.
estimation.
Yeah.
And then the tax, this is, this
Right.
34 is 5% of that, so that's pretty. I'm shocked.
Yeah. All right, anyone have their calendar available?
Yeah, it's 5% of that. Because that's what 5% shelter rents on the.
This is for a public hearing, Mike.
This would be for a final special meeting, to decide, whether you would approve a pilot for this and
Well,
other
it
terms.
depends on the finances. That's their percentage of the developer.
And that would be the 8th, the 9th, through the 10th.
I could do it at that time morning, it's fun.
Obviously, not gonna be. We're at 9:30 again? Yeah, right now, I'm fine on any of those days.
Okay. Can we do Monday and Wednesday?
Yes,
Sure.
should definitely.
Do two notices, so we have a backup. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That'll give us time to consult with the assessor on what equalization rate we should be using, so we have a comparison. And we can continue to discuss
What days or something?
Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm just gonna have something on my.
If we could meet on Monday, that would be good, because we really need to.
Is there a different time on Monday? Because we'll push you up against the wall. Yeah.
Does that give us enough time to go to Monday with announcing and all that?
Yeah, we have a 5,
Can we do it?
a special meeting can be called on notice.
3 days, right?
3 days.
72 hours.
Can we do it earlier? Do it at 9, but at 9, because it should be a long.
Supposed to need it. I leave it up to collective grief. I'm available anytime at those days to get this done.
I'm very.
9:30.
At 9, we're talking at 9 AM?
No, 9:30 works better for me, but
And better for me too, but how about the afternoon, Randall? Can you do something in the afternoon? Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be in the morning.
Yeah. What, how much, the 8th?
The eighth.
We have our involvement.
Yep, you did.
I can do one. I mean. Can't do nine.
Rather do 9 than 1 personally, but. I will work with whatever works for everyone
You
else.
can do 9, what's your stop date, or what's your, stop, what do they call that?
How early?
How early, and when do you have to leave by? If we had it at 9, how long would you be able to leave here?
Like 10.
Okay.
Let's do 9. Can you do 9?
I could try, I can't commit to that right now.
I get you a ride.
What?
I can give you a ride.
Yeah, no, it's still working.
Oh,
Day jobs. Well, why don't we, notice it at 9, and if we don't start, till 9:30, or, it needs to be with us for as long as you can.
Yeah, otherwise, I might be able to move that around the light now, like. 10:30.
Then Monday and Wednesday.
Monday at 9, Wednesday at 9:30, what I have right now, at least, okay.
Great. I turn it back to you for opportunities for public
All
comment.
right,
sorry, weren't you gonna give us an update on the Depot District?
Oh, yes, and I have that. Where did we put those? Chris, you handed them to me. Here we go. Mr. Kent is in Rwanda, but he sent these to me last night, and I sent him back a thank you note with camels and zebras and. Bye.
Mine.
Sure. Okay, as evidenced, I've been after him for some time for this report. He apologizes for the delay. Here is a summary of applications we've received so far by applicant, household income, and unit type. Those who applied, 3 have signed leases, all of which are income preferred applicants. The remaining applications are either still complete, applicants are completing the leasing process or attending a tour. To date, we've had tours for 21 qualified applicants and 41 are pending. As you can see from the chart, they're at the early stages of the process.
For income preferred. It'd be up to 130% of AMI, the rate that he's
Right.
described it in this table. Okay.
Mike, did you ask them about the 35 hours application / credit? Because I thought it was 25 hours, not 35 hours.
It was 35 on Zillow.
Right, but,
They have changed
yeah,
the
they-
platform, they're now doing applications that don't require it.
okay,
But what I'd like to know is the folks who put in their $35, are they gonna get a refund?
we can ask them that, but, Dominic pointed out that the state law, I guess, is $25. Correct.
Right.
So,
So, under income for all units, that means these are people who did not earn enough to qualify for an apartment? I think that's what that means.
yes,
And then the lower income, these are the 7, 2, and 1 are folks who would qualify for the lower payment,
right.
I think. And then there's a band of people who don't meet the income threshold for 30% AMI rents, but they're above the 80%.
Right.
So this is like the people who really have a hard time finding a place to go.
So when he's back, I think, you know, we'll have perhaps convince him to sit down with us and, take a closer look.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I want to find out, I don't know if Jonah is still here.
no,
But in Kingston, they're doing a project, at the Comer County Jail. And they have people on a lottery. They have so many applicants. So I want to understand, is it a difference in marketing? Is it a different product? Is it a different, so maybe Chris and I can look at that today.
In the lottery, it's the way that's financed, they're required to hold a lottery, so it's not, they've had so many inquiries that they decided to open a lottery, they have to have a lottery for the way that
But
project.
does that mean they have more people than units?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know if they've done a market study or
Okay.
a market study that explains, but yeah, they have to do a lottery.
But the HCR project in Tannersville, they had a 20% preferential for local for some reason with their project through HCR. 20% of the applicants were preferential from the Tannersville area locals. So I don't know how they, maybe Darren Scott can fill that in, how they put that into the scenario.
Right.
Most of the ones with the tax is lotteries, but
Yeah.
I've never heard of, that, but I was at the presentation, and that's what he said, that 20% of it are locals.
Thank you. That concludes the long day.
All right, I'll open up for public comment.
Yeah, Lloyd Olden Ketting. I'm very intrigued by this JLE endeavor. Appreciative, Joan and everyone's good work, Mike, your in-depth analysis. We certainly appreciate it, and pardon my ignorance. And I'm not well informed on matters and struggling and aspiring to learn more and more as things go along. I really intrigued by this concept in the notice of leasehold. Leasehold is some entity agreed to by the company and the agency. And in my aspiration to be the executor of the city of Hudson, mayor, I would want to protect the people of the city's interests. And this may be a wild, out of the box idea, but in terms of transferring ownership, and I know it's now ownership under the school district, but I get the notion that the city will be offering certain benefits. And again, pardon my ignorance, I don't think the benefits are large. But what is the feasibility of ownership transferring to the city in the name of the city and registered as such?
That's a question we can, it's more of a question that I can explain than a public comment. But the question relates to the fact that the IDA financing requires the title to go into the IDA. It could not go into the city.
So, okay, so it would remain with the idea, it wouldn't necessarily go to.
And then when when the pilot is finished, it goes back to the owner, to Penrose.
The city at that point.
No, because it's all in the IDA structure. It has.
But we're also doing something that's different from the normal structure.
Let's have that, that's an idea.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, but
Perhaps if I'm demonstrating my.
I guess
ignorance, I apologize.
question, are you in favor of the project or opposed to it? Maybe that's just the
Hey,
one liner.
I like the project.
Yeah.
But no, I like the idea of the project, I do personally.
All right, we can go over that. So,
Appreciate your indulgence.
All right, I'd like
Thank you,
to
Lieutenant.
make a motion for adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you, Mayor.